The United States. Is this miraculous country a heaven or a hell? How come Americans have developed over 100 genders in just over 200 years? Why have Americans developed over 100 genders? Today we will finish watching in one go. In order to provide everyone with a comprehensive view of the United States in as short a time as possible, we will offer everyone a comprehensive view of the United States. This episode's content. I choose to focus on two of the most representative founding fathers in American history, Thomas Jefferson and his political rival John Quincy Adams. Thomas Jefferson and his political rival John Quincy Adams as the main thread of this episode's content. Speaking of the United States, we cannot ignore the ratification of the Declaration of Independence. Of independence on July 4, 1776. Of independence for Americans in 1776. Of independence on July 4, 1776. The Declaration of Independence holds a position akin to a political Bible. However, as a legal document, the Declaration of Independence was merely a formalization of the demands of the Continental Congress and the colonies at that time. It was a written expression of the grievances of the colonies. They should be punished for any murders they commit. The inhabitants of those states have abandoned their government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. The free system of English laws. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people, and enlarging its bone seas to be TRD for pre-ardent offenses, or abolishing the free system of English laws in aberring princi. Establishing the end and arbitrary infirment for inducing the we have not been lacking in attention to our British reserves nation. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarranted, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury. This is closely related to the main pen of Jefferson for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws. We have not lacked intentions to our business. Establishing the warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislators and rendered the main pen of Jefferson immigration. Cow. Young Thomas Jefferson. First, let's start with a brief background on Jefferson himself. Jefferson was a third-generation British immigrant. Young Thomas Jefferson. His father was a Puritan. Young Thomas Jefferson. The school he graduated from was a college called the College of William and Mary. Laws of common, unknown in nature, the creator and creature of human nature, must be surrendered up before His Majesty's subjects its own power. Not only the principles of common must be sure that they hold there must be surrendered up before His Majesty's subjects, but the feelings of human nature. Jefferson was an excellent student. British Parliament. Shall governments be surrendered to His Majesty's subjects? At the imperious breath be persuaded to believe that their government, their fate, never cited whom they never saw, and whom they never British Parliament. Shall these governments be dissolved, their property annihilated, and their people reduced to a state of, and over whom they have no authority to punish. Nature, at the MPI Ansariator thy Oriar, is also a book-loving philosopher or removal, let their crimes against the American, and over whom they have no public eye, ever so great. Can any one reason be? And over whom they have no powers of punishment aligned, who elects in the island of great, or removal, let their crimes against the American native law to millions in the states public be ever so great? Can any one reason be Britain should give law to 4 millions in the states signed as a book-loving individual of great individual? 16,000 Cal I is also a book-loving philosopher signed 160,000 electors in the island of great. Britain should give law to 4 millions in the states every individual of them, in virtue, in understanding. Individual from ancient Greek philosophy understanding. Instead of being a free people, as we have been so far, each of us, in virtue, in understanding. To the famous philosophers of England and France, we have so far supposed, and intend to continue to be ourselves, we should. If we were suddenly to become the slaves, not of one, but of instead of being a free people, as we have been so far. To the famous philosophers of England and France. Of his late big brother II, a famous philosopher in both England and France, for himself. American subject is forbidden to make a hat for himself. Can be RDED in the Moritraris of ITI. He is familiar with all of them, including Hobbes, John Locke, Montesquieu, Rousseau, Voltaire, Diderot, as well as those European historical and literary classics. Jefferson treasures them all. After graduation, Jefferson then made his way to Williamsburg. He studied law for 5 years under a law professor and obtained his license to practice law. Due to Jefferson's meticulous logical thinking and his rigorous and serious approach to work. Thus, Jefferson had a very good professional reputation locally. It was excellent. We all know that. The Declaration of Independence took effect on July 4, 1776. However, around 1774, Jefferson had already begun to make a name for himself in politics. At that time, Jefferson had served as part of the Virginia delegation and drafted a series of resolutions. Later, these scattered writings were compiled into a booklet called A Summary View of the Rights of British America. Quote, although this booklet did not explicitly propose the idea of independence, it did emphasize the theory of social contract, such as the legitimacy of government coming from the consent of the people, rather than the traditional authority of a monarch. The text also clearly states that natural rights of people cannot be deprived, that the government is established to ensure the protection of these rights. King George III. Established. However, these claims were not adopted by the Virginia legislators at that time, due to being too radical. But these textual works have already provided a solid theoretical foundation for drafting the Declaration of Independence. He also became one of the preludes to the American independence movement. Jefferson's words are very compelling because he has the precise expression of a legal professional, with rigorous logic and theoretical basis from political philosophy. In terms of rhetoric, he has a highly idealistic temperament. Therefore, in the colonies at that time, this pamphlet had already begun to circulate widely. The Continental Congress at the time, in order to draft the Declaration of Independence, established a committee of 5, which included Jefferson, Adams, and Franklin. There are also Roger Sherman and Robert Livingston. They chose Jefferson to be the main writer for a reason. Others suggested additions, apart from others' polite refusals, more so due to Jefferson's abilities. Also, his outstanding performance in the British American Rights Summary. Regarding the intellectual origins behind the Declaration of Independence, we can trace back to those. The Battle of Lexington influenced Jefferson's political philosophy works on April 19, 1775. Jefferson's knowledge in this area was extensive. Of April 1775, battle. Among them, John Locke's theory of government is the most representative. In the preamble of the Declaration of Independence, we can see, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life rights, the rights to freedom and the pursuit of happiness. In order to secure these rights, is why humans establish governments among them, and the just powers of government, as stated in the Declaration of Independence in 1776, which are derived from the consent of the governed. In fact, the above passage is not Jefferson's original creation, but originates from the English philosopher John Locke, published in 1690. However, Jefferson here replaces the right to safeguard private property with the right to pursue happiness. Jefferson goes on to write, when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute a new government. This viewpoint also originates from John Locke. But what Jefferson demonstrates is his fervor for an ideal society in his heart. This radical characteristic of Jefferson far exceeds that of John Locke. The idealism and radicalism inherent in this also laid the groundwork for his falling out with Adams. The two parties in America today, namely the so-called Democratic Party and Republican Party, their origins can be traced back to Jefferson, and the political differences between him and Adams, starting from 1787. The great debates between these two founding fathers had already begun. In the autumn of that year, an event also occurred in America, significant enough to change history, known as the famous Shays' Rebellion. We all know that after the American Revolutionary War ended, 13 states gained independence. However, in the North American region, a new country did not immediately emerge, nor was there a central government. The economic sanctions of the British Empire plunged the America of that time into a Great Depression. Many farmers were heavily in debt. A veteran of the Revolutionary War, Shays, in a desperate situation, in exchange for a meal, sold the medals and swords symbolizing honor. This also made Shays unable to help but ask, I once risked my life for America's independence. Is this the America we have now obtained? So Shays gathered a large group of discharged veterans with similar experiences, launched a rebellion, and advocated for land redistribution, advocating for the forgiveness of all debts. Of course, Shays' rebellion ultimately failed, but this made America's founding fathers start to be vigilant. This directly led to the convening of the Constitutional Convention. After more than 100 days of debate, the United States Constitution was passed, and this Constitution can also be summarized in one sentence: its core idea, that is, republicanism over democracy, meaning to prevent both tyranny and dictatorship, and also to prevent lawlessness by the people, and to guard against lawlessness by the people more than against tyranny. This also directly contributed to the fundamental character of the American Constitution, that is to guard against the tyranny of the majority. This is in the spirit of the American Constitution, a very important principle. In the view of Adams, the likes of Shays are nothing but desperate ruffians. They are a desperate mob, but Jefferson expressed the hope that such a revolt would occur every 20 years. The tree of liberty must be watered from time to time with the blood of patriots and tyrants. 3 years later, the world-shaking French Revolution erupted. The viewpoints of the two also completely diverged irreconcilably. In their understanding of the French Revolution, Jefferson himself on various occasions always showed high praise. In his view, the revolution of the French people set the benchmark and example for the world democratic wave. Even romantically believed, this was 13 years ago. The struggle for independence by the North American people, a history that echoes each other, continues. These gifted nobles, Jefferson has always advocated that Americans should remember their roots, actively provide various forms of assistance. What Adams saw was the harm caused by uncontrolled idealistic passion. He expressed without reservation, there are natural differences between people. A small number of exceptionally talented individuals will never be content to remain inferior for long. Only when the time is right will they inevitably stand out. These gifted nobles have branded society with a mark of hierarchy, but they are also a force for maintaining social stability and order. The society of equality for all advocated by the French Revolution is essentially an unrealistic fantasy. If a society is established based on a Abstract principle. It will inevitably destroy all order. It will also inevitably lead to a cycle of escalating and escalating violence. Trying to construct a so-called earthly paradise with these abstract concepts that have no real support. To build a so-called earthly paradise. In the end, it was all a dream. The social foundation of thousands of years will also crumble. In the end, the French people neither obtained freedom, nor did they achieve equality. Adams turned these reflections and insights into the book, Reflections on Davila. This work, Yu Ying Guo Bai Ke De Fa Guo Da Zhe Ming Fan Si Lu states in jurisdiction theft, shall be puribi not exceeding $5,000, and by imprisonment during AMNTHNXX cutting THS no exceeding 5 years, and further, for his good behavior in such may and hold road publishers or SHL knowingly and willingly ACH in writing, as publishing or publishing any false, usual S-wid in writing find such, alloying or publishing any fast either of the means of writing or clarity or to excite against them. There are CF and the BSTRED of the GY of the ITED states or distinction within the United States excite UNUNL. No one shall nominate and willingly assist or engage in writing, be it further enacted, or publishing any false and malicious writing or utter or publisher shall the intent to defame, discredit, or incite rebellion against the government of the United States, but their house becomes the United States, or the side end of the United States, with intent to defame for offering resistance to any laws of the United States, any act of the President of the United States, any act of the President of the United States, such law, to enter either house of Congress or the President States, or to bring them, or the end of the United States, into contempt or intent to defame, or to incite rebellion against them, being guided by the Constitution of the United States, or to oppose, or affect any such law, or to allege any hostile designs to a large extent inherited from Adams' PLE of the United States to stop ambition within the United States, if any of them, the HUD of the good people of the United States to stop ambition within the United States, excite any unlawful combinations. The tradition within largely inherited from Adams. The fine shall not exceed $1,000, and imprisonment shall not exceed 5 years. Moreover, for any offense within the United States, or any act of the President of the United States done in the performance of any of his duties. Jefferson's thoughts on freedom and democracy. Republicans inherit Adams' basic principles. That is, freedom must take precedence over democracy. Power in the hands of a dictator, or in the hands of the majority, will always be harmful. No translation needed. Therefore, the Republicans advocate for small government and low taxes. They also oppose excessive globalization, oppose demands for absolute equality, while the Democratic Party follows in the footsteps of Jefferson's beliefs. They fully believe in democracy, fully believe that everyone can pursue an equal society. Young Thomas Jefferson, the one who best embodies its essence. It is the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution. The United States reserves all rights not specified in the Constitution for the all returned to the citizens. This includes the right to bear arms. So legally speaking, the United States can never ban guns. Thomas Friedman is a lifelong judge for the Pulitzer Prize. Seat. His main professional background is as a journalist and economist. Of course, from a political and economic perspective, this view can certainly explain why America prospers. But it cannot explain why America declines. In recent years, we can see movements like Black Lives Matter, the new Cold War, the hollowing out of domestic manufacturing, the rapid widening wealth gap, including over 100 genders in the United States today. How should we interpret these signs of decay? Could it be due to flawed institutional design? Of course, I do not deny. The institutional design of the United States is indeed a genius design, but it is not without flaws. For example, the over 100 genders we see, the tyranny of the minority groups in practice, is the most representative. In theory, based on the principles of the U.S. Constitution, the legitimacy of these minority groups demanding their rights is supported by the U.S. Constitution. But in reality, this has led the United States into a dilemma, losing control of the balance between conservatism and diversity. It could even be said to be a complete collapse of conservatism. It can be said that in the past 20 years, the mainstream political thought in the United States has deviated from the founding spirit of conservatism. This is also a departure from the Puritan spirit. Behind every financial crisis lies the fundamental cause of excessive greed and financial innovation. And America's political elites have long been entangled in abstract egalitarianism. They, in pursuit of votes and political capital, have allowed the rampant spread of political correctness, even deliberately appoint officials from minority groups like Mr. Grassley Love, to prove their fairness. For the sake of an abstract diverse society, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, governments are established to secure these rights, organizing their powers in a way that seems most likely to ensure their safety and, without hesitating to abandon pragmatic political considerations. Russell Kirk wrote in the spirit of conservatism. The original America was established by a group of Puritans. Their unique conservative spirit laid the most solid foundation for the American order. This spirit is manifested in secular terms as a political system based on the U.S. Constitution. The above views can be said to be insightful. In fact, the design concept of the United States system lies in constructing a government that balances individual rights, and the Puritans' ethics directly laid the ethical foundation of the entire American order. What the Puritans emphasized was diligence and creating glory for God. They believed wealth was a way to glorify God, while poverty was an unforgivable sin. The meaning of work is not in extravagance and pleasure, but rather stems from faith in God. This religious ethical view is the root of America's economic rise, the so-called American dream. is about diligent and innovative wealth accumulation with religious faith. Along with the increasing social competition, 1620, 1620, the threshold of the American dream is getting higher, so we always hear some polarized evaluations. 1620, DVESS. On one hand, new immigrants who achieve the expected wealth in the United States believe that the United States is a paradise on earth. For those shortcomings, they can also tolerate or ignore. But those who have crossed the ocean, without achieving wealth, show resentment and grievances towards American society. They believe that the United States is simply a purgatory on earth. For those social ills, they will naturally pay more attention. They may even exaggerate and amplify. Therefore, the United States is neither heaven nor hell. ICIO. It is more like a testing ground for human civilization. Jump. Jefferson $2 bill CA. And returns inevitably come with risks. $2 United States. Whether it's the American dream, or the American miracle, Jefferson Memorial, Washington, D.C. The design of the free market system is deeply rooted in the spirit of Puritan conservatism. So, the American order appears modern on the surface, democratic, free, scientific. But in reality, the underlying order in America is conservative, religious, moral, Republican, as Americans gradually deviate from the order established by their own hands. When the order established by themselves, when radical liberalism becomes the mainstream of society, America's decline will become a historical inevitability. Pay attention as I take you to see philosophy in a popular way. Friends, see you next time.